Hi, everyone. Hmm. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Goldfish Report. Sorry about that delay. I'm your host, researcher, and investigative reporter, Louisa. This is Goldfish Report number 495. It's our week 172 POTUS report. Today is Saturday, May 16th, 2020. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope you had a good day today and that things are opening up for everybody. Oh, my volume's up really loud. I'm gonna adjust that. Okay. How's the volume? Can everybody let me know how the volume's doing? Yeah, I just had a strange little glitch with the volume there. Okay. Sorry about that. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Hi, how are you? So this is going to be an extended goldfish report. I'm going to play some clips first, and then I'm going to get to reporting on the President's Week. President's in Camp David this weekend. And we have some clips to kind of summarize some things that happened during the week, as we usually do. So I'm going to be playing those for you. And again, I hope everybody's having a good Saturday, that the beaches are open or the parks are open where you're living. And I was slaving outside gardening today. So I was really trying to grow something. Okay, so yeah, trapped behind enemy lines. Look, we're going to be playing. Okay, thank you, Pamels Rivers. I appreciate it. Yeah, so we're going to be playing some clips about this coronavirus situation. Um, and I think we really collectively, all of us have to decide what to do about this, because I think that we can see that the rates of infection, we can see that the rates of death are even just so much below, far below the rates for the flu. So I don't really think we need the government in our business telling us how to take risks for our health, um, when clearly this scamdemic is everyone's onto it. Is it something that some people may be susceptible to? Sure. And those people should be the ones in quarantine, not the well people. So in order to overcome this fascist communist takeover of the United States, we do need to stand up for our rights. And, before we really get into the serious stuff, I am going to play something funny that I found to have a little sense of humor about some of this. Um, Actually, that's not funny. No, that's not the funny stuff I wanted to play. Um, but okay, so I will go to that first because I prefer to do that. So let me screen share a few things first to kind of, you know, I think comedy, soothes a lot of the things that we're going through right now. This is happens to be a GIF that somebody made, and clearly you have the president, wrestling with Xi Jinping, and over China, and we have a lot other stuff to talk about regarding China as well. I have some other clips about China, and it's just fun stuff. Trying to cheer on the president, and God, he is working so hard. We just hope that he does, and we pray and hope that he makes the right choices for the American people. I'm not going to play a lot of this, but I'll just play a little bit of this one here. That's cute. That's really cute. I hope everybody enjoyed that. That was really cute. There's some really creative minds out there in the Twitter realm. And here's another one I thought that you might like right off the top of the report tonight, just to little break, something a little bit different, to try to you know, s- uh, encourage, show our support for the president and his family for everything that they're dealing with and sacrificing and going through as well. Here's another one.
Words should have new meaning for all of us today. We can't be consumed by our petty differences anymore. We will be united in our common interest. And you will once again be fighting for our freedom. Not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We're fighting for our right to live, to exist. And should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
That was awesome. Let me know what you guys think about the video clips. They were, he's a clone, right? Yeah, who knows? He might be. He might have one of them. Yeah, look, I mean, I think that we're at a point where we have to put our support behind President Trump. We don't have to agree with everything he does, but that's because we might not understand everything he does. And I think that we need to give him the benefit of the doubt and wait and see, how this plays out. We have some crazy stuff going on with the Democrats, I can tell you that much. So let's start with that. Let's play some clips to kind of lead into the stories I'm going to be reporting on regarding the president this week. It's Let's see. I have a couple of clips. And you know that let's see, 516. You know that I like Mark Levin a lot, and I'm going to play a little excerpt from one of his reports today too.
Flattening the curve, we've bulldozed almost every freedom we've ever had. But Peter Collignon thinks some of the social restrictions make no scientific sense and should be wound back.
Now stop there. You never hear that on American television, ever. Civil liberties, liberty, some of these restrictions should be wound back. Where are the cameras and the news reporters in the street showing the American people one business after another that it can in fact mitigate and remain open, employ people and do business? That's right. Why don't they show those businesses? There's a local bagel place I go to. The guy's got it all figured out. There's the supermarket I go to. They've got it all figured out. You can do a drive-through at McDonald's and so forth. They have it figured out. Costco, Walmart, they all have it figured out. They're all doing a tremendous job. Why not present programming like that, which would also give other businesses ideas, and so our government knows that it can be done, there can be a balance. Instead, it's, I can't believe Trump's going to open the economy. First of all, Trump can't open the economy. The governors have to open the economy. They're the ones with their feet on the throat of the various businesses. And I can understand stadiums with 50,000 people, that's going to be a lot slower to open. I got it. 7-Eleven, they're open. Food stores, and so forth. Things can be done in a lot of our economy, in a lot of our states, in a lot of the geographic areas. But our media, so hateful to Trump, so driven by fundamental transformation. They want centralized government. They want an all-powerful president. They want Trump to be the one to pave these roads this way and then push him out and get in a Biden, a figurehead, who will surround himself with activists. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to stop there for a minute because you know what he's saying is true. We have gone we have all experienced. We've gone to the supermarket, we've gone to Home Depot or Lowe's, we've gone to where else have we gone? Let's see. Oh, that's open. The post office. Everybody's got it figured out, right? Go to the local pharmacy. Everybody's got these, plexiglass uh, counters now, and it's a little bit inconvenient, but it is. People are adapting. They are getting the ideas from other businesses on how to adapt to this fake, pandemic. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to be respectful about it whatsoever because I think that it's a scam. We have, as Mark Levin said in the opening statement of his report there, that we have basically given up almost every civil liberty and every fundamental constitutional right we own, or we don't own them. But there's even an argument whether we actually had them to begin with, and I would make that argument myself, because it does seem like it's just we're being hoodwinked. But anyway, I don't want to digress. Let's move along on the report. I'm going to play another clip, and I'm going to wait because I don't want to do all this up front. I would like to start reporting on the president right now. So, if you want to see what the White House photos of the week were like for last week, I might actually change my POTUS report time to Saturday nights just so we can include these glorious photos, the White House photos of the week, and I don't get to include them in my Friday night POTUS reports because they come out on Saturday. So uh, it's possible I might do that. We'll see. I'm not going to go through them all. If you want to look at last week's photos, I'm going to screen share this week's photos for this past week. I'll screen share that, towards the end of this report because it's Saturday, so we can do that. But for the previous week, these were the photos of the Blue Angels and the United States Air Force Thunderbirds flying over the White House, which is a really beautiful picture if you take a look at that. I don't really know why they have to do this. I don't know. I don't know why they have to spend the money on all these flyovers. I think it is just to kind of rally America together, try to rally us, drum up some support. I guess like why the USO was created, to kind of keep the morale of the troops up, right? So it's possible. I just think it's spending money we don't need to spend. But that's another story. So anyway, if you want to take a look at these White House photos from the previous week, you can go to the blog, the goldfishreport.blogspot.com, and you can check them out. I'm going to move along to talk about what had happened on Sunday. So on May 10th, it looks like we had a presidential message on National Women's Health Week, which is really wonderful to bring attention to women's health because it is special health. And I mean the biological woman, the XX chromosome. Okay. And sad that I actually have to specify that, but I guess today we have to, right? Since our nation's founding, women have made immeasurable contributions to our country's history, success, and prosperity. During National Women's Health Week, we call attention to the health needs and conditions that are unique to our mothers, sisters, wives, daughters, and friends, and we recommit to improving the quality of care and resources available to women. By working together, we can help support all women and build a stronger, healthier America. So there's a lot in here. You can go take a look and read a little bit more. You know that the First Lady, Melania Trump, has been a strong advocate against the opioid crisis, helping to fight the opioid crisis. You know that the Trump administration has been dedicated to this and also trying to reduce the stigma of people who are suffering from this. There's also women with disabilities and other issues, critical issues that women have to deal with. So it's very nice. Love that this administration really dedicates time and proclamations and addresses the specific issues of really certain groups that wouldn't ordinarily, I think, get that kind of attention. So it's very nice to see that from this White House. Here is the president remarks during a meeting with the senior military leadership and national security team. Very short. It was a joint chiefs of staff. They had a productive meeting. Military is very strong, so more than it has been in many, many years, in many decades. And he says that we've spent $1.5 trillion rebuilding our military, and it shows. It's kind of vague. I mean, I wonder how much of that went into the U.S. Space Force, and how much is. But we can dig into those numbers at another time. Toward the end of this this report, I will be showing and highlighting the new United States Space Force flag that was unveiled today. It still has like this, I don't know, this forked tongue kind of, this triad kind of, symbol on it. I don't know, folks. You can put your comments in the comment section if you like about that. So let's move along. Here we go. So here we have, again, we have the President Trump briefs the nation on testing. And he says, soon we'll hit another milestone in its unprecedented coronavirus response. 10 million tests performed across the country. That's far more than most other nations on Earth combined. So there was a press briefing on the testing. If you want to watch that link, it's right here on this page. You click on that link. President Trump has led a historic effort to ramp up testing nationwide, partnering with the private sector to accomplish more than government could ever do alone, right? Starting from scratch, America has now conducted over 8 million tests in just a few months. In addition to tests more people than any other country in the world, the United States is focusing resources where they're needed most. In hotspot areas, testing is now up to 4 times more per capita than in other major countries, including South Korea. This massive mobilization, the biggest since World War II, includes expanded production of personal protective equipment, ventilators, tests, and more. Last week, President Trump visited a purported Honeywell facility in Arizona that now makes N95 respirators, an incredible factory transformation that took just 5 weeks to complete. Efforts like these are paving the way for the safe reopening of our country. I would presume if it only took 5 weeks to transform that factory, that it had to do with the Defense Authorization Act, the Production Act, actually, which which we've talked about and reported on this POTUS report several times, and it has to do with the executive order that the president established that the manufacturers take precedence in producing, I would say, military stockpile or emergency stockpile, not necessarily military. Maybe it does include some military, but emergency stockpile type products, and also supplies that are currently needed to address whatever the issue is. I don't know about this pandemic, though, folks. I mean, clearly, this is a serious it's a serious illness. But as we're going to hear in just a minute, there's something more that needs to be talked about here. And the discussion just seems to be on testing and on vaccines and on testing and on vaccines and closing down this and closing down that and taking these liberties away and taking those liberties away. And it just seems like the conversation does need to be expanded to this whole idea of the hydroxychloroquine and what it actually does and why everybody should be taking it. Okay. So thanks to President Trump, we now have sufficient testing to allow states to begin a phased reopening when they so choose. If state officials and others implement plans correctly, we will have and there will be enough tests to allow us to take this country safely through phase 1. We are going to build our country back, President Trump told a group of Republican lawmakers at the White House on Friday, and we're going to build it back fast. So there's also a couple of other videos here, links that you can click on for more information on that. Photo of the day, you have the President and the First Lady participating in a wreath-laying ceremony at the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. in honor of the 75th anniversary of VE Day. Okay, I'm just having to drink a little espresso to keep me going tonight. cappuccinos, right? So the United States has built the world's leading coronavirus testing system. Here we have President Trump is working tirelessly to ensure that every state, territory, and tribe has the resources they need to meet their testing goals. The administration is sending $11 billion to help states, territories, and tribes meet the testing goals set out by their governors and tribal leaders. The federal government will be sending approximately 12 million swabs to states over the course of May to supplement private sector resources. President Trump is also working to ensure manufacturers are producing enough testing supplies, such as reagents and extraction kits, to support a robust testing. Just so you know, we are working with India on on a on a vaccine. Now, what's interesting about India is that I believe that that's where the hydroxychloroquine was originally manufactured, where it was. It's either discovered or was made there. So it's an interesting relationship that the president has with India, and we will be seeing more of that. I think people are less concerned with all these statistics and numbers. I think the bureaucrats are concerned about it because they're trying to use it to justify getting more money out of these bills that we're going to talk about as well. They are developing new tests. So I guess we're going to get more information about that. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I just feel like it's getting very repetitive over and over again. Already, the Food and Drug Administration has granted 92 emergency use authorizations for coronavirus tests, more authorizations than for H1N1, avian flu, MERS, Ebola, enterovirus, and Zika combined. The FDA's quick authorization of tests created by companies such as Roche, LabCorp, Abbott Labs, and many others have greatly increased America's testing speed and capacity. These efforts have allowed Americans to receive testing results in as little as 5 minutes or collect a sample for tests within the comfort of their own homes. New antibody tests, antigen tests, points of care, nucleic acid testing, and genomic sequencing technologies are under development, which will enhance our coronavirus monitoring efforts. Okay, let's move along to something else. President has announced his intent to nominate and appoint individuals to key administration posts. We have Edward Burrier of District of Columbia to be Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the United States International Development Finance Corporation. See, everything's a corporation, folks. That's why we don't have the rights I was alluding to in the beginning of the report. Everything's a corporation, right? Whatever. Okay, so you can go here and look at his background if you'd like. Michael Hale of Kentucky to be member of the Board of Trustees of the Harry S. Truman Scholarship Foundation for an additional term. Okay, we also have Diane Moss of Texas to be the member of the President's Commission on White House Fellowships. Timothy Horn of Colorado to be a member of the National Infrastructure Advisory Council, and Philip Anderson of Washington to be United States Commissioner of the Pacific Salmon Commission. Sorry. Here is background information on a phone call by senior administration officials on the United States leading the world in COVID-19 testing. Folks, if you want to look at this transcript, be my guest, go to the goldfishreport.blogspot.com, and you can go here and read this. I'm summarizing these calls and the information in this in the rest of the reporting from the week. So right here we have West Wing reads Flynn and the anatomy of a political narrative. So this was the big news this week, right? But that Judge Sullivan somehow is taking he's accepting, or I would say soliciting, amicus curiae briefs to the court. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what an amicus brief is, an amicus brief is essentially stating that you're a friend of the court, but you're not just any friend of the court. You're a friend of the court, and you have specific knowledge in the area that the court is dealing with when it comes to whatever the case is before at hand, right? So in other words, In other words, if there was a lawsuit between two people who were suing each other over stolen buggy whips, right? And they were like the last manufacturer of these buggy whips. You would want somebody who knows something about these buggy whips, someone who is, knowledge that might be, hard to find, or um, might be antiquated, could even be outdated, but it's relative to the case. So even though you're not hired as an expert witness by either side, you're a friend of the court in that you're coming in as uh, in a friendly capacity to offer some level of expertise or information that the court wouldn't ordinarily have before it while it's weighing that decision. So that's what an amicus curiae brief is. And why Sullivan, after there's not even a prosecutor on the case, so the judges can't act as prosecutors. So that's again, the rule of law. Yeah, Obama's right. The rule of law is at question, but because there hasn't been rule of law, it's been all manipulated, right? Because when you are the law, when you are the president, like Obama was, and you fill all the top, cabinet positions and all the top judge positions and all the top leadership positions with your, fascist cronies, then you are the law, right? So yeah, your rule of law, Obama's rule of law is what's at stake here, not the Constitution, that we, the people, rule of law. That's not what's at stake here. So clearly he doesn't want this stuff coming out. It's obvious it's obvious. Okay, so let's move along. Let's move along and let's see what else is going on here. Okay. Um, so the FBI coordinated very closely with the Obama White House on the investigation of Michael Flynn while the Obama Justice Department was asleep at the switch. That is among the most revealing takeaways from Thursday's decision by Attorney General Bill Barr to pull the plug on the prosecution of Flynn. Andrew McCarthy writes in National Review, "You'd almost think the Obama White House and its intelligence apparatus was weaving a political narrative out of nothing." This is what they do. This is how they do it. They absolutely weave webs out of nothing. They take one fact and then they just start weaving this web. This is what the courts do when they want to take you down, when they want to silence you, when they want to shut you up, when they want to stop what you're doing because you're, to them, they perceive you in some way as a threat to their power. Or ego, could be one or both, right? So here you can see NBC News admits it aired deceptively edited clip on Barr on Meet the Press with Chuck Todd. Now, how many people saw this correction, right? How many people saw the original footage of the NBC interview, and how many people were then made aware that it was deceptively edited? That how many people got that notice? Probably very few, right? That's how they do this. They control the narrative. And this has to play out. According to Q, folks, Q has always said that this has to play out. It has to be done legitimately. This has to be exposed, as painful as it is. And it is painful, in my opinion. It's painful to sit here and it's painful to sit back and watch all this play out because of the massive amount of time that it takes for this to happen. I think many of us were ready 5-10 years ago, even 5 years ago. Many of us were ready, but let's keep moving along. Barack Obama is a lawyer, so it was stunning to read that he ventured into the Michael Flynn case in a way that misstated the supposed crime and ignored the history of his own administration in targeting Mr. Flynn, as if he had some sort of amnesia and completely forgot that he's the one who orchestrated and ordered the whole thing. Okay. Since the former president chose to offer his legal views when he didn't need to, we wonder what he's really worried about. Exactly. That's called projection, folks. Projection. It's a psychological construct, okay? And the deep state is guilty. I mean, they're doing this all the time, the deep state. So it's a common ploy that they use you know, to try to deflect attention away from themselves, but it isn't working. The U.S. Department of State will be requiring a clean path for all 5G network traffic between U.S. diplomatic facilities and the United States as U.S. diplomatic facilities overseas moves toward adopting 5G-enabled technology. The goal of this new policy is to ensure entrusted IT vendors, including those from China, are denied access to State Department systems. Okay, read more from share.america.gov, right? Look, a lot of people have issues with this 5G. It is definitely a major concern, especially after how Dr. Judy Mikovits came out and stated that once the 5G was activated, it started this process within the it activates this virus, the viruses, and starts to cause these problems and death. We're probably going to go into this a little bit more. Some may be speculation, uh, but we will go into that a little bit more. And I have invited Dr. Mikovits on the GoldFish Report. We'll see if she's able to accept and join us to have that discussion. Okay, so in many ways, the right to religious liberty stands as the first American freedom, the first freedom listed in the Bill of Rights. For churches that abide by social distancing guidelines, civil authorities should allow these gatherings to proceed and let Christmas render unto God the things that are God's. Yeah, so exactly. I mean, if we can manage to go to the supermarket, folks, if we can manage to go to, Lowe's and to the bank and to the other essential businesses, the liquor store, essential business, if we can manage to go to these places without all of us dropping dead from coronavirus, certainly we should be able to open up the businesses. And as Mark Levin said, learn from what these other businesses who were essential businesses and figure it out what to do. We should all be able to go about our life now and start, just living our life, getting jobs, opening businesses back up, opening jobs back up. That's how we restart the economy, right? So I'm going to play a short clip here from, let's see. Yes, I know the Constitution is dead, more or less. But we are trying to, I think the whole idea is to restore our republic, and God willing, huh? Let's listen to a little bit about this coronavirus relief bill. Okay, this bill, let's see if I can pull this up really quick for everybody. What is it? HR 748. Let's see. Where'd it go? Sorry about that. Here it is. CARES Act. No, I think it's the 666 HR 666 one. Let's see about that one too. Ouch. I mean, this is ridiculous, folks. It's like right in our faces, right? 6666. Jesus. No, not 5. Oh, good grief. Sorry, I typed it wrong. Yeah. This. Hmm. The Trace Act, folks. This is really concerning. This should be concerning to everybody. Okay. This act right here, which I'm going to screen share, um, should be concerning everybody. This has to do with contact tracing. And this bill should die immediately in the House of Representatives. It should go no further than Nancy Pelosi's deranged desk, because this is sick. This is exploitation of a national emergency with no verifying. There was no grounds to justify, no justification, right? No justification. So essentially what this is saying is to authorize the Secretary of Health and Human Services to award grants to eligible entities to conduct diagnostic testing for COVID-19 and related activities, such as contact tracing, through mobile health units, like what, your cell phone, and as necessary at individuals' residences and for other purposes. You know, folks, this is really, 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 really concerning. And like we said in the very beginning of this, um, report, that we are losing our civil liberties, and I know that they're already gone, but this is the illusion that they kept up. They kept up the illusion that we had them, and that's the only thing keeping the masses asleep, is that they think we have these rights, right? So, but it's playing out, and it has to play out this way, that we're losing these rights because we're under a corporation, we're under a corporate status, and we are surety by virtue of our social security number. We are surety for the debts of the globalists. So that's why we have fiat money, and it is a debt slavery system, and we are the surety for those debts. So this is so wrought with opportunities for abuse and exploitation. Hotspots. Look at how much money. This is a lot of money. Let's take a listen to what Hannity is saying about this. Let's see, where do you go? What's hidden in these bills? Let's take a listen.
This is a blanket amnesty for virtually every illegal alien who has already taken an American job. And once this amnesty is granted, it will never be taken away. Bet on that, no matter what they tell you. Anyone who lives in Washington can confirm that. Once passed, it's not going away. And at that point, there will be no more debate about illegal immigration. The issue will be settled permanently, and Democrats will win every presidential election for the rest of your life, the rest of your children's lives, the rest of your grandchildren's lives. That's the point of this. But the bill keeps going from there. The bill would automatically extend current guest worker visas while raising the ceiling for additional ones. Democrats have called this bill the HEROES Act. They're telling you it will help healthcare workers. But as of tonight, thousands of American healthcare workers are being furloughed from their jobs or fired entirely. This bill, remarkably, orders DHS to expedite visa processing for foreigners who want to come to the U.S. and work in healthcare. Got that? American healthcare workers laid off, now they could be replaced by foreigners willing to work for less. We don't have to guess if that could happen. It's happened throughout American industries. Under this bill, it would happen to our healthcare system as well. Sorry, unemployed Americans, better get used to drawing a government check. That's your future. And then there's the long section in this legislation about drugs. The bill is strongly in favor of drugs, probably because when you're high, you're less likely to think or worry about what else is in the bill. The bill mentions cannabis 68 times. It orders the federal government to produce an annual report on, quote, expanding access to financial services for minority-owned and women-owned cannabis-related legitimate businesses. Democrats would like to see more drug sales in minority neighborhoods. That's in this bill. Keep in mind, these are the people calling you a racist. And the bill makes it clear they still believe you are. The bill mentions diversity at least 20 times. It would order all federal government agencies, to the greatest extent possible, to hold deposits in minority-owned banks. Okay, fine, but what does the pandemic and our response to it have to do with race politics? Stupid question. In the Democratic Party, everything has to do with race politics all the time. It's the primary way they get and keep power. Race politics is the only program they have, that and more crime and increased censorship. This bill, believe it or not, also contains a prison break provision. It's like a Saturday Night Live sketch. This bill would order the release of every federal prisoner who has asthma, diabetes, or is over 50 years of age, unless the Bureau of Prisons affirmatively proves the inmate in question is likely to commit violence against a specific person. Not in general, against a specific person. Here's the censorship part, and it's part of a growing and ominous theme in that direction, a theme that will prevent you from saying or believing what you like. This bill directs $1 million to the National Science Foundation to study coronavirus, quote, misinformation, which shouldn't be allowed. In other words, shut up and stop disagreeing with our pronouncements. That's not allowed. Take another hit on your government-sponsored dab pen and submit. That's the message that it sends. But for the favored few, the Democratic Party's donor class, the bill is far more gentle and soothing. In fact, it's a payday. This bill would repeal the cap on state and local tax deductions. That would help, almost exclusively help, high-income neighborhoods in overtaxed blue states. Why is that significant? Because that's the beating heart of the Democratic electorate. This is a payoff to them. Amazingly, and you can't make this up, this bill, the HEROES Act, would also help a very different kind of hero. It would make lobbying shops in Washington, D.C. eligible for small business loans from the federal government. In this bill, lobbyists are heroes.
Okay, so this one is the HEROES Act, which I was screen sharing as well. So this is something to obviously be very concerned about as well. So, you know, it is important to try to follow. You know, Tucker does a pretty good job, and so does Sean Hannity, about talking about what's in these bills and in the details that they present them. Let's just see. I think I had some other clips that I wanted to share with y'all. Here we go. Let me go back to. Yeah, here's a clip. Okay, I'm gonna actually wait on this one. I'm gonna wait on this one. Let me go back to my page, and then in a minute, I'm going to get back to the president's update. But this is what we were talking about when it came to the coronavirus, folks. This is why there's so much, I think, overreaction, and you can put your comments in the comments section and let me know what you think about it. It's something to be concerned about. This is from a doctor who says that the hydroxychloroquine absolutely works, that it is the fear that is killing us, and the TDS hate from the left that is keeping this cure from the people. Let's listen to what she has to say.
Dallas, and says she's seen a 100% success rate in treating her patients. Her secret? The medicine, hydroxychloroquine. One American News spoke with Dr. Lozano, who reports that every patient she's treated, even the most serious cases, have seen their symptoms all but disappear within 24 hours.
So the question is, can hydroxychloroquine save lives? And the answer emphatically is, hydroxychloroquine saves lives. I have seen lives saved in my office. Patients that I normally would have put in the hospital, patients that have been in intensive care units, but the response is dramatic. Within 24 hours, these patients with severe pneumonia are breathing. Within 48 hours, they've almost at 80% recovery.
However, like other doctors across the country, she's faced fierce opposition from pharmacists who refuse to fill her prescriptions for hydroxychloroquine. Lozano says she was getting phone calls from pharmacists who told her they wouldn't fill prescriptions for her patients without knowing what it was for, even though she says that's a violation of patient privacy laws. With a growing number of sick patients and no way to treat them, Dr. Lozano finally contacted Republican State Senator Bob Hall for help. Facing growing pressure from lawmakers like Senator Hall, as well as physicians like Dr. Lozano, the state pharmacy board finally backed down and allowed Lozano to prescribe hydroxychloroquine.
If you get this, we hope you don't, but if you do, there is a treatment. Reach out to your local doctors.
Dr. Lozano also credits President Trump for helping to spread awareness about hydroxychloroquine's effectiveness and blames Dr. Anthony Fauci for trying to keep the president silent.
Every single doctor that I've heard from, didn't hear it from the original, study from the doctor in France. They actually heard it from the president of the United States. And so I think the president had good intentions in just saying, hey, look, this looks like it's a promising study. And I think what happened was the backlash, the political backlash was so severe. Fauci muzzled the president of the United States. And so I encourage the president, be bold and courageous. We are bold and courageous because you have led the way, and keep talking about hydroxychloroquine, and we are for you.
Despite the opposition, Dr. Lozano says the medicine has been so successful, she's had patients show up from all over Texas to get treatments because their own doctors won't prescribe hydroxychloroquine for fear of losing their medical licenses.
Yeah, so this is One News Network, or One America Network, that is reporting this. Isn't that lovely to actually see, the little ticker at the bottom with these other news announcements. I mean, this is like a dream for us to see this kind of reporting. It's actually real reporting. It's real news, and so is So was that. What was interesting was that she stated that she didn't hear this from the medical sources. She heard it from the president. So that's why the president is doing it. And he's got such a tough job, this man. He really, truly does. Because he had to be his own press secretary. He had to uh, do so much more than just be president. It's not even funny, and he doesn't even take a paycheck for it. So that's pretty amazing. But the doctor said that she's prescribing it with a 100% success rate. So I just don't understand why everybody's then panicking. And of course, uh, Tony the Rat Fauci, he is definitely, come out to be the villain in all of this because he's been suppressing this. According to Dr. Mikovits, he's known this for 15 years. So I don't know, folks. This is a time when we have to say, what can we do for our country? We have to stand up. We have to thank the president for standing up as well, which, like she said, allowed her to be bold and to stand up and to do the prescribing because it's for all of us, guys. Okay, so I just want to stop in and say hello to everybody in the chat. Um, how's everybody doing? Overpopulated. Who says we're overpopulated? This is a pretty big planet, and there's people dying all the time as well. So there's this, apparently there is a little bit, there is an increase in a population too. But I think we all need to stop listening to what the globalists are trying to say. You know, I think natural selection would clear that out on its own. I don't think we need help from Bill Gates or anybody else, to be honest with you, and not Tony the Rat Fauci. Not for sure. Hi, Sherry. How you doing there? Yeah. So this guy is not. Yeah, we do. We need to stand up and we need to have our voices heard. But this hydroxychloroquine also protects the cell from what Dr. Mikovits was saying, protects the cell from invasion. Now, I did a report on this with Dr. Scott Werner. So it was just published, let's see, a couple days ago. So go take a look at that. And if you'd like, because you can get more information um, about this. Yeah. Yeah, right. Who knows how many people are really on the planet? I mean, you know, it's like you can't even trust anything they say anymore, honestly. Let's keep moving along. I do have some other clips, but I'm going to keep going along with yeah. Oh, exactly. I mean, more people die from smoking, from car accidents, from violence, from all kinds of things. And we haven't shut the borders for that yet. So I don't know. It starts to get fake after a while, folks. Okay, so we all start knowing that. You can also check out our Monday report that we had out in political theater with the FETs called Obamagate. You could check out that whole thing, how this whole uh, uh, scandemic. Actually, we're talking about the Russian collusion hoax there was orchestrated by Barack Obama. And I did screen share some leaked documents. You might want to go there and check it out, which clearly stated that this was under the direction of the President of the United States, dated in 2016, which at that time was Barack Obama. Now, Boris Johnson knows about this because Boris Johnson's signature is on some of these papers. So it looks like Trump, a good thing that Boris Johnson got into the parliament in the UK. It's possible that's where they got the information from. I know other sources where I think they got the information from as well. So more press briefings. Let's see. I'm going to scroll through this because they're all summed up in these other reports that we have. So let me just scroll through this while. Yeah, no, there's no more there. Okay. Okay, so the president, let me see something. Hold on. All right. President met with the governor of Colorado and North Dakota. They were talking about what they were doing there with regard to testing. They just talked about the records of what they were doing. You know, let's see if there's anything I wanted to highlight from this, but we will be talking about the Space Force because they did comment on this in this transcript, but I'm not going to go through the transcript. As you know, I don't do the transcripts anymore because it just takes a really long time to go through the report. So let's not do that. And we're talking about what does a safe reopening look like. So let's take a look at that. This is from the 1600 Daily that the White House press office publishes. So state by state, the president is helping to bring our great economy back to life. The strategy for doing that was laid last month when the president unveiled his guidelines for opening up America again. This phased approach gives every governor a playbook to evaluate when and how to get their people safely back to work. Each state has a full partner in the Trump administration to make that happen. I've sat in the task force meetings where Assistant Secretary for Health has talked to governors, as Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany told reporters yesterday. He literally pulled out his chart and said, Governor X, here is your plan and your request for testing in order to safely reopen. I can assure you that this will be satisfied this month. And it is this way because every state has different requirements. Not every state has been affected in the same way, and not every state has the same needs, as the president has reiterated many times. In addition to this support from the White House Coronavirus Task Force led by Vice President Mike Pence, the president himself has been meeting with state leaders at the White House, including governors of Florida, New York, New Jersey, and Louisiana. Now, just yesterday, the governor of New Jersey said that they were going to start their for the there's a primary election in July. I don't know if it was moved. I don't even keep up with that politics, honestly. That I don't really keep up with New Jersey politics that much, but this was the basis for him requesting mail-in ballot voting. So here you have it, Jersey. You have a Democrat governor. You have Democrat, state here, and they want mail-in ballots for that general election. I'm sorry, for the primary election, that is. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Also, you have, I just want to talk about things that are a little bit more relevant to everybody. A safe reopening is possible because of aggressive action at the start of this outbreak, strong social distancing measures, bought valuable time to mobilize a historic public and private sector response, which ensured adequate testing, access to personal protective equipment, and hospital resources to treat the sick and protect the healthy. Here, Operation Warp Speed will deliver vaccines and therapeutics in record time. Let's take a look at what they have to say about this Operation Warp Speed. Okay.
Launched Operation Warp Speed, which is an historic effort to bring vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics to the American people in record time. President Trump looked at the timelines that all of these players in the pharmaceutical industry and elsewhere said would be needed to bring these products to market, and he said that's not acceptable. And so building on work that the Department of Health and Human Services, the Defense Department, and all of our colleagues across the United States government and in industry have been doing since January, working day and night, he's launching Operation Warp Speed, which is going to compress and wring out every inefficiency in the process, take away every unused day, and also scale up at the same time manufacturing so that as we get vaccines that work, we'll be able to actually distribute them right away because we're manufacturing at the same time. So President Trump is setting, as he always does, ambitious goals, but he's got the right team in place to make this happen. President Trump has
I'm not
launched.
sure how many people are going to be taking that vaccine, to be honest with you. I think there's going to be very few people who will. Sadly, there will be many who will take it, which we know. We do know that. I do have some other interesting video to share with everybody, but I'm going to wait a little bit on that. Let's take a look. Some funny things that I shared in the beginning of the report, which I thought everybody would appreciate. We also had here we have a CNN reporter, Caitlin Collins, caught removing her face mask when she thought camera was off. This isn't the first time this has happened, that a reporter was caught in the White House press briefing room taking their mask off or suggesting that they didn't need one. And it just looks like the fake news media wants to portray and wants to instill all this fear into people, but behind the scenes there's like no problem, right? It's like no problem. Here we have Matt Couch from the DC Patriot reporting that Lindsey Graham announces a new investigation into the FBI. You can go to our Twitter page and check that out. New York City Mayor de Blasio says that the New York Police Department will no longer arrest people for not wearing masks. Whoa, yay. I mean, come on, folks. This is crazy. We've allowed it. We have allowed this. We absolutely have allowed this. We have the president talking about Obamagate and lots of other things going on here. Armed Forces Day, May 16th. That's today. This is Armed Forces Day. Today, we honor all active duty members, service members. Thank you for your service and sacrifice. And here's a nice tweet from the Department of Defense to honor all serving in the armed forces. Here's our Space Force flag. Here's our Coast Guard. Here's our Air Force. Who's that? The Army, the Marine Corps here, and I can't even read what that is, but I think it's the Navy. Yeah, it's the Navy. So very interesting, folks. Very, very interesting. Yeah, we're going to talk about this Judge Sullivan issue in just a minute. I want to get back to screen sharing a little bit more. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining me. I'm just looking back into the chat now. What's whack-a-mole? Tony the Rat Fauci. That's what he is. It's what he is. He's gotten that nickname. Somebody gave him that nickname. So, yeah, it's just, even it kind of looks a little bit like a mouse, doesn't he? Like a rat. Sorry. I shouldn't be saying something like that, but he kind of does. Okay, so let's go back. Let's keep going with the report. And he's got that gangster voice, Tony the Rat. It's so appropriate for him, though. Suddenly, the swamp goes quiet, right? For nearly 3 years, Democrats and their allies in the media lectured Americans about the seriousness of the Trump-Russia collusion hoax. Rarely a day went by when the false narrative didn't appear in articles, op-eds, or liberal cable talk shows. Now these pundits are nowhere to be found on the subject. Newly released transcripts might have something to do with that. As they reveal, former President Barack Obama and congressional Democrats have a lot of explaining to do. It turns out there was never any shred of evidence tying then candidate Donald Trump to a Russia collusion plot. That didn't stop the Obama FBI from surveilling the Trump campaign, nor did it stop them from targeting Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. The swamp wasted years of our country's time with sham investigations. At last, they're going to be the ones answering some tough questions for the American people. CNN went from nonstop coverage to look the other way. Figures. Obamagate is the biggest political scandal of our time, and that is being talked about quite a bit right now. President Trump and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy listened to remarks during a meeting with Republican members of Congress. Here you have the president providing support to underserved communities impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. You can go here and take a look at all of this. He's we've talked about this many times on the POTUS reports. The White House has provided at least 550,000 African American stakeholders with comprehensive, direct updates on preparedness, response, and mitigation efforts. The White House has reached hundreds of thousands of Hispanic stakeholders through conference calls, town halls, and virtual events to inform about our COVID-19 response. The administration has held weekly calls with tribal leaders to assist tribal communities with response, mitigation, and recovery efforts. The president has also directed the White House Opportunity and Revitalization Council to focus on underserved communities impacted by the virus. Now, delivering critical economic support. President Trump is committed to ensuring that distressed communities have access to vital economic assistance during this time of crisis. President Trump signed legislation providing $60 billion in loans under the Paycheck Protection Program targeted to support minority and disadvantaged communities. The president is delivering up to $1,200 in direct cash payments to Americans who have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and providing additional payments for their families. I don't think that's going to be enough, folks. I mean, there's a lot of people losing their homes and, people can't make their car payments. They don't have jobs. This is not, that's certainly, I mean, it's, you know, unfortunately, until we can reopen the economy, I think the government should be doing what they can to help us out. Oh boy. Okay. The Department of Education temporarily delayed student loan repayments, held interest rates at zero, and provided more than $6 billion in emergency assistance to students. I happen to be one of them, and I'm watching this very carefully. The president signed legislation providing $1 billion to historically Black colleges and universities, Hispanic serving institutions, and other minority serving institutions that have experienced hardship due to COVID-19, and continues to target funds to institutions in need. But what good is it, folks, if we can't get any jobs? What good is it getting all this higher education if there's no jobs to have? This is not making any sense. This isn't making any sense. The president signed legislation providing $3.5 billion to keep child care centers open for low-income families and frontline workers. Really? You can keep child care centers open for low-income families and frontline workers, but you can't keep them open for people so they can go back to work. This just, man, when you smell a rat, it just smells ratty, right? The president is committed to equipping underserved communities with the necessary testing and healthcare resources they need to combat this COVID-19 pandemic, right? So if you want to know more, go to the goldfishreport.blogspot.com. Here is a text of a letter to the president, to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the President of the Senate. This has to do with the National Emergencies Act, providing for automatic termination of a national emergency within 90 days. They have to give notice, and it's published in the Federal Register. Let me just move this down. Here it is. So here we have continuation of a national emergency with respect to securing the information and communications technology and service supply chain. So that's what this is about. They have to send a letter to the House and the Senate, and of course it's published in the Federal Register. That's how it's done. So here you have that if you want to look at more details about that. This is to deal with the unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, and the economy of the United States posed by the unrestricted acquisition and use of certain information and communication technology and services transactions. So you can go here and read this in more detail if you'd like. Again, it's published in the Federal Register. West Wing reads, the era of offshoring U.S. jobs is over. Some say crises don't so much alter the course of history as accelerate changes already underway. That's certainly the case when it comes to the coronavirus pandemic and the offshoring of American jobs. U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lightower writes in the New York Times, every day I talk to business leaders who now acknowledge they underestimated the risk in decisions to move jobs overseas. You think? Pandemic has vindicated the Trump trade policy in another way. It has revealed our over-reliance on the other countries as sources of critical medicines, medical devices, and personal protective equipment. You think? See, this is what happens when you just have unabated capitalism without, nationalism. I mean, if you're not going to be a patriot of this country and all you care about is, where you can get your, highest profit, even, stockholders, people have to stop being so damn greedy. You have to understand that there's a cost, there's an expense to the overall country when you pursue greed and self-interest over the general. And I don't mean this in a communist sense. I mean this in a sense where there just needs to be some balance. Obviously, if we're going to outsource technology jobs and certain critical medicines and devices and equipment and things like that to other countries, we're obviously going to be cut short. But wasn't that the whole plan of the Obama administration, right? According to President Trump, we didn't have any ammunition left in our U.S. military. So, I mean, it was to make us defenseless, unable to defend ourselves, put us in a very weakened, vulnerable position militarily. President Trump had so much to correct and fix and for our country, but everybody got tired of politics. Everybody turned their head and looked the other way and got busy in their lives. But folks, it's we the people, it's our country, and it's our responsibility to be the checks and balances for this government. And if this government is too big and too unwieldy, it's still our responsibility, and it is the call of the militia to stand up and take back this country. That's the way I see it. Newly released congressional testimony shows that Adam Schiff spread falsehoods shamelessly about Russia and Donald Trump for 3 years, even as his own committee gathered contrary evidence. This is going to get ugly, folks, but we knew it because Q warned us. Q warned us this had to be done this way. So it's just really playing out as the plan as it intended to be played out. For many Americans, especially in rural communities, access to high-speed broadband is essential now more than ever. Under President Trump, the Agriculture Department is not letting up in our strong effort to close the digital divide. We are using every resource available to us to bring this vital connection to rural homes, businesses, and essential facilities. Yeah, we really need to be on top of this whole 5G thing, folks. We really need to, because what we saw in Wuhan, China, according to Dr. Mikovits, likely had a 5G component involved in these 20 million China Mobile missing users. And how did that happen? Well, we're going to talk about this in another report. We're not going to get into the details of it tonight. Less politicized media would applaud senior advisor Jared Kushner's behind-the-scenes work to mitigate the impact of the coronavirus. But because Kushner is part of the Trump administration, and because the work he is doing is part of President Trump's bold and comprehensive response to the Wuhan virus crisis, Kushner is attacked in a way that a member of the Democrat administration would never be, according to the town hall. Okay, so I think we're seeing the consequences of having put ourselves, we made ourselves very vulnerable to the enemy. We made ourselves very vulnerable and reliant on other countries that did not have our best interest in heart, for sure. But I think we all saw this coming. I mean, I don't think this is a surprise to anybody. Okay, so let's go through, this was for Thursday. Thursday's, yeah, I knew this one was going to be a little bit longer. I'm going to try to get through it a little bit quicker here, okay? Nancy Pelosi's left-wing wish list. And House Democrats are focused on helping Americans get through this global pandemic safely. They sure have a funny way of showing it. So Nancy Pelosi's latest extravagant $3 trillion spending proposal is Washington at its worst and most predictable. While President Trump governors of both parties and frontline workers band together to fight this virus as one country, House Democrats see an opportunity to exploit this crisis to pass their partisan agenda, which we just talked about, exploitation. Millions of Americans are out of work. President Trump is trying to get them back on the job by safely reopening our country. Instead of helping him do it, here is what Democrats in Congress have decided is worth holding coronavirus relief hostage for: a ban on information about low-cost health insurance. That's right. House Democrats want to forbid the government from sharing any information with you about lower cost health options, such as association plans or short-term plans. Even as families try to cope with job and wage losses, Speaker Pelosi doesn't want them to learn about options that are up to 60% cheaper than Obamacare. Also, mass voting by mail. Yes, coronavirus relief bill might seem like the wrong time and place to dictate how states run their elections. Democrats disagree. And as we just talked about, state of New Jersey is already starting to implement, or at least intending to implement, voter mail-in voter votes for the upcoming primary election. So, it is an exploitive opportunity, right? So, stimulus checks for illegal aliens, rather than protect American citizens by requiring a social security number for taxpayer-funded stimulus, Pelosi's bill would give illegal immigrants the ability to receive up to $1,200 in direct payouts. Not now, folks. Not now. This isn't the time to be generous. It's a time, to illegals. It's time to be generous to Americans and help when we're having our crisis, right? Bailouts for government. Democrats want more than $1 trillion in cash for state and local governments, mostly in the form of unrestricted aid that doesn't need to be used to offset coronavirus costs. They also threw in a $25 billion bailout for the post office. What is this? Monopoly money? I mean, these numbers are huge. People are, breaking their backs every day, going to work, getting so much of the paycheck taken out, and they're just using it so recklessly. Again, we are the checks and balances, but we have to all be it. We have to all agree and see and understand that we have to act as one in this. We really do. The list goes on. At a moment when Americans most need Washington to look out for them and cut the partisan drama, Democrat leaders once again choose to put their far left base first. You can look at, and there's more here on Democrats' new $3 trillion coronavirus spending wish list is another embarrassing farce. If you want to read more on that, folks, you can go to the goldfishreport.blogspot.com, look under Thursday's press releases, and you can click this link here to read more about that there. President Trump is protecting our national stockpile, which also we were talking about earlier. When the coronavirus struck, President Trump knew that America needed to act quickly. He worked with Congress to secure $16 billion to build up our national stockpile with ventilators, masks, respirators, pharmaceuticals, and other critical supplies. But for who? I mean, okay, give everybody hydroxychloroquine who needs it, or who requests it. As a result, America today has an abundant supply of ventilators, N95 respirators, and resources for testing, a crucial area where we now lead the world. But that's only the start. President Trump knows that America's long-term self-reliance depends on our supply chain. Our goal for the future must be to have American medicine for American patients, American supplies for American hospitals, and American equipment for our great American heroes. Now, both parties must unite to ensure the United States is truly an independent nation in every sense of the word. Today, the president traveled to Pennsylvania, this was Thursday, visiting a distribution center that played a key role in helping to restock America. Just since February, the Owens and Minor Distribution Center in Upper Macungie has deployed 1.75 million N95 respirators, 3.4 million gowns, 80 million gloves, and much more across our country. You make America proud, President Trump told them. If I, messed up the pronunciation of that, forgive me. Macungie, that's what it sounds like to me. Okay. We are reclaiming our heritage as a nation of manufacturers. That's really wonderful. And here's a quick clip from the president regarding our supply chain, which is important to maintain. So yeah, I am screen sharing. Okay, good.
Look, there's nothing good about what happened with the plague, okay, especially the death. But the one thing is, it said Trump was right, because I was getting a lot of fight back, even from people that I like a lot in Congress, etc. And now they're not fighting. These stupid supply chains that are all over the world, we have a supply chain where they're made in all different parts of the world, and one little piece of the world goes bad and the whole thing is messed up. I said, we shouldn't have supply chains. We should have them all in the United States. We have the companies to do it. And if we don't, we can do that. Look, there's nothing good about what happened with the plague, okay, especially the death. There's nothing
Okay, you
good.
can see how important this is for the president. You can tell that he has, been taking this very seriously, and this has really been the basis for his trade deals. Bring the manufacturing back to the United States. Excuse me, trying to drink my espresso. Let me just check in with the live chat. How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody doing good? Everybody behaving? I know you are. I just have to check in every once in a while just to see that everybody's doing okay. All right, I'm glad you're doing okay. All right, so I'm going to move along. All right, so here we have a photo of the president. This is for the same date here. We have a photo of the president arriving in Allentown, Pennsylvania. That's very interesting. I mean, what's the president supposed to do? That we can't have rallies, right? We can't pack stadiums. What a great opportunity this was, right, for the Democrats to seize upon, and thinking that Trump can't hold any more rallies. But let me tell you something: Trump supporters, they aren't going to go anywhere. He's showing such incredible leadership. I have never seen such amazing leadership from a president before in my years on this planet, and through there's some other examples in history, but at least not in my lifetime have I really seen such great leadership. So I have to say, President Trump is going to turn out to be one of the strongest, if not perhaps the most important president that we ever had, besides our first one. So let's take a look at this. Here we have remarks by President Trump at Owens and Minor Incorporated Distribution Center in Allentown, Pennsylvania. If you want to go and take a look at, we just explained what they manufacture and what role they were playing. If you want to take a look at this, you can go. Sorry, I'm scrolling on my my screen share. Let's move along to 3 nominations sent to the Senate. Keith Dayton of Washington to be Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the United States of America to Ukraine. Danny Lam Nguyen of the District of Columbia to be an Associate Judge of the Superior Court of the District of Columbia for the term of 15 years. Yeah, I think I botched his name, but I think it's Nguyen. Okay. John Trong of the District of Columbia to be an Associate Judge of the Superior Court of the District of Columbia for the term of 15 years, as there were 2 retirements. Interesting. Superior Court judges. Superior Court. Maybe it's as different for the District of Columbia because they're not really a state. But superior courts, those judges are usually appointed by the governors of those states. Interesting. But because DC is different, I guess the president gets to send these nominations. It's interesting, though. Most superior court judges are appointed by the governors of their states. So that's an interesting, diversion from the norm, but so is DC. There's nothing normal about DC, I guess, right? Okay, as we just talked about, President Trump is ensuring we have the strong national stockpile and industrial base needed to meet any challenge on our home ground, on our home territory, on our homeland here, right? So we inherited a broken, terrible system, and I always say it, our cupboards were bare. We had very little in our stockpile, President Trump stated. So, enhancing our preparedness, President Trump is working to ensure a fully stocked, resilient national stockpile and a domestic industrial base capable of meeting any future challenge. And it's about time. It's about time we have a president who's putting America first. President Trump and his administration are releasing a plan to restructure the strategic national stockpile, implementing lessons learned from recent pandemics. Our next generation SNS will be improved by increasing supplies of critically needed items, integrating predictive analytics to determine needs, leveraging technology to provide real-time visibility of supply chain, and reducing dependency on foreign supplies. Oh, haven't we learned our lesson, America? Haven't we learned our lesson? To, I mean, if we depend on foreign supplies, our enemies can infiltrate us through that, which China's done. So haven't we learned? Okay, so additionally, President Trump is signing an executive order providing the authority to ensure America is producing critical goods necessary to build up our strategic stockpiles. Under the order, the United States International Development Finance Corporation will provide financing to key industries producing vital goods and services. With the health and security of our nation as the primary goal, this order will secure our supply chain and make our country more independent, self-sufficient, and resilient. The President's actions will protect the American people, make sure our nation is more prepared, and prime our industrial base to respond to any future challenge. This just reminds me of, definitely, post World War II, where we had another industrial boom, right? After, responding to challenges, President Trump is determined to address the challenges of stockpile deficiencies uncovered during the initial coronavirus response. Folks, you can go here and take a look at all of this. There's a little bit more here, but you can, I'm kind of repeating myself. You can go to the goldfishreport.blogspot.com and read up on the rest of that if you'd like. Or if you're watching, you can just scroll down and finish reading that. If you're listening and not if you just have audio, then I guess you could go to the blog at some other time and finish reading that. Yeah, you'd have to read it eventually. So here we have an executive order on delegating authority under the DPA to the CEO of the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation to respond to the COVID-19 outbreak. Interesting, huh, folks? CEO of the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. Everything's a corporation, folks. Everything's a corporation. So here they're talking about proclaiming that they declare the national emergency, recognizing the threat that the novel coronavirus poses to our national health care. This is to ensure our country has the capacity, capability, and strong and resilient domestic industrial base necessary to respond to the COVID-19 outbreak. It is the policy of the United States to further expand domestic production of strategic resources needed to respond to the COVID-19 outbreak, including strengthening relative supply chains within the United States and its territories. Basically, what the president is doing here is he's bringing jobs back to America. He's, I suppose he's incentivizing companies, or at least through this executive order, kind of mandating that certain, I would say, critically needed type industries be based in homeland, be based in America, so that our country has the supplies we need should there be an emergency and people are not relying on other countries. We should be producing our own supplies, food, and everything else here. This is the right step in the right direction for America, folks. We don't want to be caught up in a war or caught up in a crisis even greater than this, whether real or manufactured, without having access to the necessary supplies. You go to the supermarket, folks, there is one brand of paper towels available on the shelf where I live. There's still many empty frozen doors of the frozen food section. There's only 2 or 3 brands of companies still producing food. It's not as much. Yeah, America's used to being plentiful. We're used to having plenty, aren't we? But the selection is so much, so much more restricted at this point. So the president, this is exactly the right thing the president needs to be doing to protect the United States, to protect America. So this is I think, a very important executive order. This is bringing jobs back to the United States and saying bye-bye to China. And I think, right now we're having some pretty serious issues with China. It does, I mean, if you look at all the Democrats and what they were involved in with China, you would think that we've been infiltrated by China. We sure have, haven't we? I'd like to see your comments on that in the live chat. Do you feel that we have been infiltrated by China through the corruption and through the bribery of our elected officials? Let me know what you think in the live chat or even in the comment section once this video is, because we're live right now, but it will be posted as it will be recorded. Eventually, it'll be up there. So, oops, nope, I didn't want to do that. Okay, what else do we have here, folks? What else do we have? Let's keep moving along. Okay, so the president had some remarks before he departed on Marine One. Let me just try to pull some things out of here. Here we go. Here we go. Talking about China. I'm going to pull this up and see what you. So this is on his way to Marine One. The press gaggle. There was some press were meeting him out there. And he talked about China. And one of the reporters says, "What do you mean by cutting relations with China? What would that look like?" And the president said, "We'll see. We've got a lot of things going with China. We're not happy about China. I will tell you that. The ink wasn't dry on that great trade deal, and all of a sudden the plague comes in from China. We're not happy about it." Isn't that interesting? If you look at it, that's one way to avoid paying all of these tariffs, right? Is to knock out our economy so that we don't have any product to ship, to export. That's really dirty playing if that's what China's doing. That's really dirty, I have to say. The World Trade Organization chief is stepping down a year early. What do you think that means? He says, "I'm okay with it." The president said, "I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it." If you look at the World Trade, not only the World Health, and we'll be making an announcement on the World Health Organization soon, soon. But the World Trade Organization is horrible. We've been treated very badly. I've been saying it for a long time, and we act on it. When I talk, we act on it. The World Trade, they treat China as a developing nation. Therefore, China gets a lot of the benefits that the U.S. doesn't get. They have other countries that are developing nations, and the people sitting in the Oval Office should never let that happen again. Should have never let that happen. So here's another question. Do you think the CDC is overcounting death counts? So finally, a good question from somebody in the mainstream media. I don't know who it was. I don't know how they're counting. I never discussed it with them. Death is death. We don't want people dying in this country, and we've done a great job. I'll tell you what we've done on ventilators and what we've done on testing, except the press doesn't write it in that way because you all have this fake news. But what we've done on testing, we've now tested more than the entire world plus together, put together. The entire world put together, we have many more tests than they do, better tests. The reason we have more cases is because we have more testing. So he did not answer the question about whether or not he felt that the deaths are being overcounted. Interesting. But the president, I'm sure he's waiting to address that at a later time, because now I think, the heat is on Tony the Rat Fauci now. Okay, so President Trump announces more judicial nominees. Here we have, I just announced this before. So 2 Superior Court judges, associate judges for the District of Columbia. You can come to the goldfishreport.blogspot and check that out. More on the national stockpile. I'm not going to go into more detail on that because we just talked about it quite a bit. And if you want more detail, you can come to the goldfishreport.blogspot.com and you can check it out. And I'm going to wrap this up with, I have a couple quick clips to play, video clips on interesting topic, but I'm going to screen share the photos of the week real quick, some of them, because like I said, we don't usually get to do this because they usually come out on Saturday, and I usually do my POTUS report on Friday. So it's nice that we have a chance to share this with you all. Okay, so here's photos of the week, and you have the president participating in a meeting with senior military leaders and members of the national security team on Saturday, May 9th, 2020, in the cabinet room of the White House. So that was last week. More photos. You have General Milley there, and you have the Space Force director there on the left of Milley. Another Space Force director there, and I don't remember their names. I don't have them written here. I'm gonna show you the Space Force directors in just a minute as they're unraveling and unveiling, I should say, the new United States Space Force flag. Here's the president delivering remarks during a coronavirus update briefing in the Rose Garden, and you can see that the press is distanced for social distancing. And let's see, how many are wearing masks? They're all wearing masks during the the press conference, and then after the press conference, they take them off. Fake news, fake news. Okay. So, Assistant Secretary for Health Admiral Brett Groer, joined by by Brad Smith, Director of the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, delivers remarks during a coronavirus update briefing on testing capacity. So you can see that here. Nice photos. America leads the world in testing. I guess and here he is, COVID-19. He's got some testing kits out here on the table. These look like the swabs. I don't know what those are. Interesting. Very interesting. Here we have the COVID response coordinator, Dr. Deborah Birx, participate in a video teleconference with governors to discuss the response to the virus pandemic and economic revival. There she is alone in the room having this meeting with all these other people. Interesting. Okay. Here's the vice president in a meeting, same meeting in the executive office, Eisenhower Executive Office building. There he is, Vice President Pence, and joined by External Operations Director, and they talk on the phone in the Eisenhower Executive Offices there. Okay, we all know this room. Kayleigh McEnany's doing such a great job as the new White House press secretary. I'm proud of her. She's acing this. She's completely acing this. She's got it, and she's doing a great job, and she's got this brand new little beautiful baby girl, and we wish her a lot of luck and a lot of happiness with her daughter. These masks. And you can notice how Kayleigh's not wearing one. How could anyone hear her talk if she had one on, right? Look at this. They're sitting in here because the press is in there taking pictures with their mask on. Really? This seems so staged. Tony the Rat Fauci sitting right there. Okay. Members of the Vice President Mike Pence meets with members of the White House Coronavirus Task Force in the Secure Media Suite of the White House. FEMA. What's going on? Getting those FEMA camps ready. Nobody to report in because nobody's dropping dead like flies over this. Okay, good. Here's the president in some meetings. You can come check that out at the blog. Here's some more meetings where they're putting their masks on. And they know themselves they're only rebreathing their own viruses, activated viruses, reactivating them. What are you going to do? More meetings on this. Here's the president on looks like the South Lawn, answering questions right from reporters who all have their mask on, or some of them who have masks pulled down. There's the president departing en route to Pennsylvania. Photos taken from the Rose Garden. Here's the president signing the executive order to delegate authority under the Defense Production Act as to the chief executive officer of the United States International Development Finance Corporation. Yeah, I'd like to really know. I'm going to look into that a little bit more and get more information on it. This is the president. We already showed this picture disembarking from Air Force One in Allentown, Pennsylvania. This is the president in the Allentown, Pennsylvania factory, Owens and Minor Inc. Distribution Center. Made in the USA. There you go. Oh, they've got gloves and all kinds of medical supplies and stuff that they've been making there. So it's wonderful. And they're social distancing there in the manufacturing place, but they're all working. They're all staying at their jobs. Why isn't everybody, you know, why isn't every business, if it's providing jobs and income for people, why isn't it an essential business at this point? We need to reopen, folks. We seriously need to reopen. Here's the president's motorcade in Allentown and their supporters out there. And here is at the airport, the Beast, the president's car, they call the Beast. President's getting ready to come back to leave, and here he is arriving, and more of the same kind of thing. Yeah, here's Dr. Birx for the first time wearing a mask. I mean, come on, isn't it a little bit late now? Aren't you a few months late wearing the mask? I don't know, folks. She's got to keep up the fear. There's Tony the Rat Fauci wearing his mask. Yeah, he tells everybody else to do it and doesn't do it himself. Now he got enough flack. He's got to cover his face in shame. I don't know. I'm not a fan of his, not at all. Tony the Rat is right there, and there is Dr. Birx, and she's got her mask on. It's just like, it's so fake. Okay, here we have, this is interesting. This is the patch, a close-up view of the uniform of Chief Master Sergeant Roger Toberman, United States Space Force Senior Enlisted Advisor, is seen during President Trump's presentation of the United States Space Force flag, Friday, May 15th. This was yesterday. Very cool. Look at that. Look at that. But again, we have that forked tongue thing, which indicates, I don't know, it always kind of looked kind of serpent-like to me. And here's the flag. Here's them unveiling the flag. I don't know, that gray trident seems a little blah to me. Little blasé. It's kind of cool, the colors. The colors are nice, but it's, I don't know, something's missing from it. Artistically, my eye is saying something's missing from it, but you know what I mean. Tell me your opinion. Put in your comments if you like. Here's the president signing a proclamation for the Armed Services Day yesterday, and there's the proclamation with Defense Secretary Mark Esper and Chief Master Sergeant Roger Toberman, United States Space Force Senior Enlisted Advisor. Displays his signature after signing a proclamation for the 2020 Armed Forces Day. So that's very nice to honor all of our military, active military in the armed forces. Honor them. So very nice. And here's the flag again. And of course, Vice President Mike Pence poses for a photo with them. So it's very nice. This guy, interesting guy. We should do some digging and look into that a little bit more. And here's, of course, the President and First Lady walking along the colonnade of the White House, attending a presidential recognition ceremony. Hard work, heroism, and hope in the Rose Garden of the White House. And here's the president smiling, something that we rarely see him doing, but he genuinely looks, at peace, or at least happy at that moment. And here they are at that ceremony. And we have a New York City police officer there delivering remarks at the recognition ceremony. So there you have it, folks. Here's some Girl Scouts wearing their masks. What a nice little honor for them. And here's the president. There's the president. Okay. So we're going to wrap this up. Here's some more. We also have proclamation on World Trade Week. This is a global leader in innovation and commerce. The United States is willing to do business with any country, strongly committed to open, fair, and competitive markets, benefiting our nation's farmers, ranchers, manufacturers, service providers, and entrepreneurs. During World Trade Week, we reaffirm that free, fair, and reciprocal trade is essential to driving economic growth and ensuring a secure and prosperous future for our nation. This is the president's doctrine, basically. The Trump doctrine is essentially, national security through fair and reciprocal trade. Because that's really the foundation of all of it. When you have that fair and reciprocal trade, then you even have currency, stabilization. So you can come to the blog and take a look at this proclamation on National Safe Boating Week as we all start to prepare to go into this Memorial Day weekend next weekend. I think it's next weekend. Next week? Yes, next week. The president's trying to bring awareness to going out there and being safe and bringing the attention of water-related accidents that happen and take sensible precautions. So whatever, that's okay. Like, we need to be reminded to be safe. And even when we are reminded, those who aren't going to be anyway. But all right, that's very nice of him, though, because it's good. And then here is that ceremony that the president, I was just screen sharing those photos from the White House. This is the ceremony, and you can come here and take a look in more detail what was said. The transcript is right there. So that's it. Now, I wanted to screen share a few things from Twitter, a few things regarding what's going on with this Obama, or this, I would say, General Flynn situation. Let's listen to what Sidney Powell has to say here. And then I'm going to play another video, which I'm not sure if anybody's seen yet.
Former federal prosecutor, best-selling author. Sidney, it just continues to pile up. I frankly thought at this point you and I would be talking about a man who was free of the burden of, for the first time in 3 years, of federal persecution. And I mean persecution. Your thoughts about what Judge Sullivan has chosen to do?
Well, it's unconstitutional. It's in defiance of a new Supreme Court decision that just came out within the last week that, by the way, was unanimous and written by Justice Ginsburg. It's defiant of a D.C. Circuit decision written by the now Chief Judge, I think, of the D.C. Circuit. So I don't know how long that's going to last. We're certainly planning on taking further action to try to restore the rule of law in this case, because it's certainly not being applied now.
Sidney, at what point does Chief Justice Roberts, at what point does an appellate court say, wait a minute, Judge, I'm not waiting for motions from defense attorneys or prosecutors for that matter. We're going to stop the nonsense that is on its face in violation of the law, in violation of the Constitution, and simply is an additional burden to 3 years of what has been the most malicious, politically corrupt prosecution in history. What in the world does it take for this judiciary, which is now appearing every bit as corrupt as the FBI and Justice Department and parts of the intelligence community under President Obama?
It shouldn't take much more than a few more days, Lou. We're working on a couple of motions that shouldn't take much longer, and I wouldn't think the court, in light of the precedent that stands, should take very long to decide that. So we will be getting after it.
Well, that is good to hear. I have to say that my disappointment in the judiciary is like I'm sure most Americans. I am so sick of the political corruption in this country. I have to believe that the intelligence agencies, the FBI, men and women, they have to be tired of being played for fools and pawns in all of this. Men and women who work every day to protect the nation are being played by the likes of a federal judge like Sullivan, prosecutors like Mueller and his team. It goes on, and it is absolutely appalling to watch, Sidney. Just when I thought we had a chance to right wrong, truth, justice, and the American way, to have it all foiled by a judge who has taken leave of his senses as well as the law. That's not the case. You get the last word here tonight.
Yeah, I was certainly hoping Judge Sullivan would take this opportunity to just correctly apply the law and resolve this issue, because he doesn't have any discretion under Rule 48A that the government filed its motion to dismiss under. And it could have been a big step toward healing the country and putting things back on the right track. But, you know, God works in mysterious ways, and people are getting a real education, a very strong eye-opening experience. And the more this goes on, the more they learn.
This is true, folks. I mean, this really echoes what we've talked about on the GoldFish report for quite some time. Sadly, that there really is no rule of law. And if you are a threat to the powers that be in any way, or if they perceive you as a threat, then they will take the full force of the law, and you know, under color of law, they will abuse their power and see to it that they make your life miserable and impossible. So, but this has to play out. According to Q, this has to play out. The corruption has to play out. It's all like prophesized, that anything that was dark and has to come to light, has to be, you know, what was hidden has to be revealed. So, and if you're going to restore the country, the organic constitution of the United States, and we're going to have a completely new we have a new U.S. Treasury note. My sources are telling me it's been trading on the back screens of the Forex for quite some time, a few years actually. I can't independently verify that. I haven't seen it on the Forex on the back screens, because I don't personally have access to it. So I just rely on my sources for that. We have major changes coming. Major changes in our political system. And the only way to get people to embrace these changes at such magnitude is for this to play out and for people to see the corruption themselves for the, you know, firsthand. There is no other way to do it. Let me screen share another video. Talk about corruption. This is a very, very telling, and I would say, you know, chilling, actually. A lot of people have heard of the Morning Joe program on CNBC, right? With Mika Brzezinski. You all know who she is, the daughter of, what's his first name? Brzezinski, whatever. Who's a deep state, you know, puppet, just like Soros and all that other stuff, right? He, so Joe Scarborough and her are married now, but at the time he was a senator, he had an affair with his intern who ended up murdered, coincidentally. And this is an Imus in the Morning interview. Interestingly, how basically he's admitting that this had happened in a kind of joking way. So I wanted to play this for everybody because I wanted you to see it for yourself, so you could decide for yourself what you think of it.
You've got to, you know, occasionally we're going to try to help you. And you've just, right, Charles, you've got to listen. So.
Well, tell me what I need to do.
Well, no, you're doing great. I mean, don't be afraid to be funny.
Okay.
Because you are funny. That was you know, I asked you why you were in Congress. You said you'd had sex with the intern, then you had to kill her. And,
exactly.
I mean, that's pretty risky to say.
What are you going to do?
So it could be, you can be very good. I mean, I actually like Keith Olbermann, and I like Matthews, and it could work out for you.
Well, it's going to be a good lineup. And the guys at NBC and women at NBC looks like they're going to stick with us longer than they did with Donahue, which I'm glad they were impatient with him. And I think.
I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Is this something to joke about? Oh my God. Oh my God. Is this something to joke about? That we're going to joke about having sex with your intern and killing her? Sounds like another Chandra Levy situation. Let me tell you, folks, we need to open our eyes and see what the heck's going on. We really need to open our eyes. Okay, I wanted to play that because I wanted everybody to get a good look at that. And also, there is another one that I wanted to play. This is what happens when a police chief constable tries to expose a former prime minister as a pedophile. Let's listen. Let's listen in. I hope my volume's not too loud for everybody. I think it might be a little bit loud, actually.
Well, I tried to defend Mike Veal in the Conifer investigation, and in fact, I did tell Mike Veal 18 months before he completed that report, that if you're going to do this properly, and if you come out with results that the establishment won't like, you do realise they're going to remove you. And I don't think Mike.
Explain who Mike Veal is. You need to explain who Mike Veal is.
Mike Veal was the former chief constable of Wiltshire Police who did the investigation into allegations of child abuse against Edward Heath, who was deceased at the time. And the way that Mike was attacked and his report before it even came out by the mainstream media, I mean, you just got to ask yourself who's pulling the strings here, because no one had ever been attacked like that, and he hadn't even produced his report. And sure enough, my prediction to him 18 months before the report was finalised all came true, in that his conclusion was that, and it's all he could take it to, he was very clear, that because Edward Heath was no longer alive and couldn't answer any of the questions that would be posed to him, the only conclusion they could come to was that had he been alive, he would have been taken to the next stage, that the police would have asked him to come in to give evidence and explain himself under caution. And if he wouldn't have come voluntarily, he would have been arrested and brought in for questioning with regard to child abuse allegations. And that could never go any further than that. But even that was enough that
But we've all forgotten about that now. We've all forgotten about that. The mainstream media kept pushing. So I've got very involved in this story, Andrew. I know a lot about it, the Westminster paedophile ring. And I had a moment when the Independent Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse published their report where they said that Margaret Thatcher knew it was going on, that Cyril Smith, they knew about Cyril Smith in the 1980s, and I'd met a victim of Cyril Smith in the 1990s. And I saw all the reports in the mainstream media basically saying there was nothing to see here, there was no cover-up. And I had a moment, Andrew, because I've been working on this for over a year. I had a moment and thought, I've had enough now.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, folks, they turned a blind eye, and just like a lot of, unfortunately, just like a lot of the child abuse and molestation cases happened because they're protecting the people in power who are engaging in that kind of behavior. So I wanted to screen share that and just, let everybody know that's been out there. It's kind of circulating right now. And just, that this is part of what President Trump has been trying to end. He's been trying to take this down and stop this trafficking, human trafficking, child trafficking, the pedophilia and all of that. So, oh yeah, I had that on there. So you can screen share. I have a picture of Tony the rat scratching his nose in the mask, and this is exactly what happens to me. Except that they're saying that he's picking his nose through the mask during a live TV episode on C-SPAN. C-SPAN caught it. It's pretty funny. But this is what happens when you wear these masks. It's absolutely, they start itching. And this is a problem, but it looks like he was digging. So I don't know. I don't know where we find all this stuff, do we? So let me check in with the chat before I sign off. I'm sorry, it's been quite, yeah, it is disgusting. Yeah, they all knew about it. Of course they did. Yeah, I can show that comment. So anyway, yeah, I think, Joe, it's all going to happen. It's all going down. I'm just checking in with my viewers. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. If you have any, thanks. If you have any comments. Yeah, give us a thumbs up if you like the report, because it will help to circulate it. It is a little bit long, but that's what happens when we go live. It always seems to be a little bit longer, but also when we wait until Friday, it does seem to, I'm sorry, Saturday, we only do one a week. It is a little bit longer. But there's lots of stuff to talk about. I do appreciate everybody joining us. Thanks to everybody who joined us in the live chat. I love your comments. It's great to see everybody. Yeah, we are the answer. Of course we are. And we need to support the president. In terms of the 5G, this is, I can't see President Trump allowing 5G in a way that's going to harm us or even potentially genocide us, like what happened in Wuhan. I don't see President Trump doing that. I just don't. I could be wrong, but I don't see that happening. So, is he going along with the plan up until the very last minute? I don't know. Follow Q, see what Q says about it. Q's been posting a lot. We're at this point. We're at this point, folks, where, we're getting ready to, you can't tell people, you have to show them. And once you show them what's been going on, as Q's been posting, they want us in fear, they want us divided, they want us dependent on the government so they can control us, and we have to fight back. We just have to keep fighting back. Yeah, I mean, look at the Q posts. The Q posts are very very telling. I wonder if I should just screen share that really quick. Let me do that. Might as well, right? Might as well. Here's May 15th Q post. Listen carefully. Why are possible treatments, cures being banned? Why are possible treatments, cures being attacked? Right? Why are possible treatments, cures being targeted? Right? The doctors who are writing the prescriptions, they're being blocked by the pharmacies for not filling the prescriptions, wanting, because they're probably coming down hard on the pharmacies for it. Evidence is overwhelming. How do you keep people living in fear? How do you keep people divided? How do you justify vote by mail? How do you justify state bailouts? Yeah, this whole thing was a scam, folks, wasn't it? How do you make people starve? Dependent on government? How do you justify anything non-COVID related to be a political attack? FISA unmasking. That's what's coming up. That's what's coming up. We need to see the arrests. We need to see people held accountable. We're seeing we have problems with that right now with General Flynn, with this Judge Sullivan. Not even following his own mandate, not even following, he's basically violating his canon, the canons of judges, a judicial canon. What is he, acting as his own witness, acting as his own prosecutor? He can't do that. But this is how far we've gone. This is how far off track we've gone, folks. And we need to right the path, and we, the people, have to do it. So, and I know we have a lot of people with us. We have a lot of people, yeah, don't consent, exactly. But we have to do it ourselves. You see, we have to be united. Our voice has to be united. So everybody have a really great, thanks, Dan, for the comment. And Ariel, I appreciate it. Ascend and don't worry, be happy. Slim, thanks so much. Yeah, thanks, Slim. They're in fear, using satanic projection once again to neutralize the energy. Exactly. Ariel, thank you. Freeman, thank you everybody for joining me. You have a great weekend. This was a long report. I hope you enjoyed it and got a lot of information from it. And we'll be back on Monday with another political theater with the Fets. And we will be doing our 500th report sometime soon. So I don't know what it's going to be yet, because I haven't decided what I'm scheduling it, what I'm scheduling, but it will be the 500th report, and it is coming up soon. We'll see. Maybe it'll be our last. We never know. I hope not, but we can't do this without your support. So thanks to all of our Patreons. we are, I want to bless every one of you. God bless every one of you, of the Patreons and all the people who have supported us through donations. We could not do this without you. So, if you're getting information, if you're getting benefit and you're benefiting and you find value in what you're receiving here, please consider being a supporter or a Patreon of the Goldfish Report. You can go to thegoldfishreport.com and you can find the links there if you'd like to links to our Patreon and to our PayPal in any way that you can support the Goldfish Report to keep us going. And, we'd love to get back to the White House. So get me back in there, folks. Get me back in there. Okay. Everybody have a great weekend. And this concludes this edition of the Goldfish Report. Thanks for joining us.